This should be what you're watching on Monday of week 6. So currently this says week 5, but that was back when we weren't distance learning, so this is week 6. And we are on page 17. So make sure that you are on page 17 with us. You should be watching this only if you were absent or you weren't able to make the Google Meet. If you are currently on Monday or on Wednesday and you're like, what am I supposed to do today? You're supposed to log into the Google Meet. So if it's during class, log on to the Google Meet right now, because that would be a good idea. And then your teacher's going to tell you more. It's going to be great. All right, so you should be watching this if you weren't at the Google Meet, or I don't know if you're absent. So today we are going to do something called point slope form. Which is about using an ordered pair which looks like x, y, and the slope to represent an equation, or to represent a line. Okay, so point slope form, there's a form that it's going to look like each time. So each time, and I'm going to try and color code this, it's going to always start with y minus, that stays the same every time. This y1 is going to change. Then it's always going to be an equal sign. And then this m, parenthesis. So if you have your colored pencils at home that you got last week, you could use those right now if you want to color code this with me. It'd be super cool. x1, parenthesis. All right, so in this problem, m is the slope. Remember, m is always slope. So we're going to think of slope as like rise over run, or y2 minus y1, x2 over x1, where this y1 and this x1 kind of come together to form a point. Okay, and that point is the xy. That looks like paint, but it's point, I promise. Okay, so here we go with our first problem. It says circle the slope and write the ordered pair. So the slope should be pretty easy to find. The slope is always in front of those parentheses. So here our slope is 2. Okay, now here's the deal with the point, is that if you look at our original form, it says the opposite of x, opposite of y. So we want to kind of think opposite. So when you look at x minus 3, we sometimes look at this as like a negative 3, but we're going to think opposite. And it always goes x, y. So we're going to look at the x first, and we're going to think what's the opposite of negative 3. Opposite of a negative 3 is a positive 3. And y, what's the opposite of minus 3? Would be a positive 3. So it's just 3, 3. All right, number 2, circle our slope. Our slope is the m. M is on the outside of the parentheses, so our m is right here, this positive 1/2. Okay. Then we have our x and our y. So our x, it says minus 4, and we're thinking opposite. So opposite of minus 4 would be a positive 4. And this one says plus 2, so it's like a positive 2. So opposite of a positive 2 is a negative 2. And that's because that sign switched. It went from a minus to a positive, so you have to think opposite. So opposite of that 2 is a negative 2. Because the opposite of minus is plus. All right, now this one doesn't look like it has a slope. So let's think about that. If we write it as y minus 6 equals, now let's leave a space there, parenthesis x plus 2. What number could I multiply this by and not change it? I can multiply it by that number 1. Because then that 1, when we multiply by 1, it doesn't change anything. So 1 is our slope, so we're going to circle that. And then our x, y. So our x is what is with the x. It says plus 2. Remember, it's supposed to be minus. We have to think opposites. What's the opposite of positive 2? That's negative 2. And then our y, it always goes x, y. Our y, it says minus 6, so the opposite of a minus 6 is just a positive 6. All right, last one on this one. We're going to do the same thing. We're going to rewrite it really quick because it looks like we have a slope. It's negative 2/3. That is there. But when you look at our point, what is the x? So let's think, how could we rewrite that? If we have y minus 1 equals negative 2/3 times x minus, what number could I subtract from x that wouldn't change it? So if I have like 5, what could I subtract from 5 and still have 5? Well, that would be nothing. There's nothing we can, so that's 0. So our x is 0. Remember, there's no positive or negative 0. It's just 0. And then our y is going to be this 1, and it says minus 1, and the opposite of minus 1 would be a positive. All right, 2 more problems on this first page. On page 17, we're going to write an equation in point-slope form using the following information below. So remember, it's y minus y1 equals m times the quantity of x minus x1. So the parts that we change, so if you want to use a highlighter or if you have those colored pencils, you could use a yellow colored pencil to shade over. We want to cover this y1, this m, and this x1. Okay, and we do that with the slope. Slope is m. And then this is going to be our x1, y1. Okay, so I'm going to plug in the m first. That's just really easy. So I'm going to say equals 3/2. I'm going to do parenthesis x. So x minus, now my x is a negative 2. So we always want to think opposite. So if I wrote 2 here, it would look like a negative 2. So the opposite of a negative 2 would be a plus 2. It's always opposite. Okay, and then on this side, we could write y minus, and our y1 is 0. And y minus 0, 0 is nothing, so it's really just y. So this one's a little goofy because it's just y equals, which isn't how it normally looks, but it does in this case because of that 0. Okay, and then again on this one it's y minus y1 equals m times the quantity of x minus x1. And we're going to change the numbers for this y1, m, and x1. Okay, so if we just did it in order, we'd have y minus, and we're going to think, what is the y from my point? Well, on the point, it always goes x, y. So the y from the point, that's a y. My y's aren't very good today. So x, y. So my y is negative 6. So I could write minus negative 6, but when we subtract a negative, it's the same thing as adding a positive. So y plus 6. So since it's negative, we're going to make that a plus, a positive, because it's opposite. Our m is that slope. So our m is negative 5, parenthesis, x minus, and then our x1. Our x1 is the x from the ordered pair. And this time it's just a 1, so we're going to keep it as x minus 1, because that looks like a negative 1, and that would be the opposite of positive 1. Next page, one more page. 3 more problems. So we're going to graph the following equations. So first thing we have to do is figure out what is the slope, what is the point. Again, slope should be pretty straightforward. Our slope here is 2. And then our point is the ordered pair. What's with the x? With the x is a minus 3, so we're going to keep that a positive 3. And with the y is a minus 1, so we're going to keep that a positive 1. So that's going to be the first thing we do is we're going to plot that point. That's our starting point. So we're going to go 3, 1. And remember, this goes x, y. So on the x, we go to 3, 1, 2, 3, positive. Positive 1 means up 1. From there, we're going to use our slope to do our rise and our run. So number 2, how could we write that as a fraction? We could write that as a fraction of 2 over 1. And that's rise over run. So from this point, we're going to go up 2, run 1. So from this point, we're going to go up 1, 2, over 1. Make a point. Up 1, 2, over 1. If we wanted to go in the other direction, we could too. We could go down 1, 2, over 1, down 2, over 1, down 2, over 1. But that red point represents the first point I started with. And then we're going to make a handy dandy line using this guy. I know what I'm doing. Just kidding, I don't. All right. And when you draw lines, you want to try and use a straight edge. And you want arrows on both sides. And I'm going to make this a fun color like green. No, green's a bad color. Let's do purple. Easy peasy. All right, number 8. So our slope is that m. If it helps, continue to write y minus y1 equals m times the quantity of x minus x1. So that m is right on the outside of the parentheses. So this time our m is -3. And if we write that as a fraction, we could write that as -3 over 1. So that's our rise and our run. If it's a fraction already, you know your rise and you know your run. The point is what's with the x. With the x, it looks like a -1, so that's going to be a +1. And with the y, it says +2. So the inverse of a +2 is a -2. So this is my starting point. That's where we start. So 1, -2. So on the x, we go to +1. Then -2 means going down 1, 2. So that's my starting point. From there, we're going to do our rise and our run. So this one says -3. So we could think about that as going down 3. So down 1, 2, 3, over 1. And remember that negative slope should be going downhill. Another way we could think about it is we're going to go up 3, 1, 2, 3, in the negative direction once. Up 2, 3, over 1. And then we can use our nice straight line. That one. I thought I was going to save and it's going to look so pretty, but it didn't. Okay. Make it purple. I like purple. All right, last one. This one, we're going to write the point slope form of this equation that passes through this line. So we know it goes through these 2 points. For point slope form, we need to know 2 things. We need to know a point. Do we have a point? Yes, we have 2 points. And we need to know the slope. Do we know the slope? No. Can we find the slope? Yes. Okay, to find the slope, we're going to do y2 minus y1 over x2 minus x1. Remember, we label our points. It always goes x, y, x, y. That x looks like a y. That's an x. And then to get the points, we think about it just as 1, 1, 2, 2. All right, so when we solve this, we're going to do y2. y2, this is my second y right here, 5, minus my first y, y1. y1 here is -3, so I'm going to put that in parentheses. That way I have that minus and that negative. I can tell the difference. x2 is 4 minus my x1, which is 2. So 5 minus -3, we could use a calculator. I don't have that pulled up. But we could change it to adding the opposite. So this is really like 5, change it to adding. What's the opposite of -3? +3. So 5 plus 3 is 8. 4 minus 2 is 2. And then can we simplify that? And in this case, 8 divided by 2 is just 4. So that's the m. So now we can write our equation. So it's y minus y1. So we can use either of these points. Let's use this first one. Since it's already labeled y1 and x1, we'll use this one. Okay, y minus, and this is a -3. So instead of saying -3 like -3, we're going to do opposite. We're going to say +3 equals my m. we found out m is 4 times the quantity of x minus, and then what is the x from the point? The x from the point is 2. It's positive 2, so we're going to keep it as a minus 2. And that's it. So go ahead and write something for my takeaways. Something that I would write would probably be like, think opposites, because when it says minus 2, that actually means it's a positive 2, or when it says plus 3, that's a negative 3. Maybe think about your rise and run. I don't know. There's like 20 million things you could write. It's up to you.